Shut Up and Play the Hits is a very special documentary. Its structure and style complement its material in the most uninterrupted way. In itself, it's less of a documentary and more of a compilated experience. It barely uses the traditional interview setup, and through its editing, it manipulates time to give an introspective look at LCD Sound System's last show. Directed by both Will Lovelace and Dylan Salton and released in 2012, it chronicles the 48 hours of LCD's concert in Madison Square Garden and the frontman, James Murphy's, morning after. Beginning with a cacophony of sound and overbearing white lighting, the documentary opens with confusion and a sense of ramping anticipation. It's this anticipation which lingers throughout the piece. Over time, we can piece together that the documentary actually starts at the end and continues on into the more mundane aspects of James Murphy's retired life. From then on, the documentary treats us to starkly controlled and composed filming of Murphy walking his dog, contrasted with clips of him announcing the band's breakup on television. This contrast is one of the main windows in which we view Murphy's life and experience with him the chaotic doubt that he himself faces at this point in his career. The documentary then flicks back and forth between their final show and Murphy discussing his life and fears about where this new path will take him, with writer Chuck Klosterman. The documentary is very unobtrusive, letting Murphy himself describe his thoughts, and layering these poignant expository segments on introspective shots of New York and Murphy alone. It's this cutting and changing between time frames that this documentary really shines in both its intent and execution. Shut Up and Play the Hits says many things. It's a personal piece, but also an experience. It showcases the fragility and hesitation of a man breaking away from fame, hoping that it will be better for it, but with no guarantees that this is not the biggest mistake in his life. The editing and timing of contrasting material is what gives the documentary its strength and message, without overbearingly communicating it to the viewer, and how it threads its stylistic choices throughout the piece, utilizing it to back up its goal. For example, have a look at this shot. It's one of the few times in the film where they directly cut between the last gig and James the morning after. There are two types of lighting and composition in the film which are starkly opposed. The milky white and dreamlike lighting of Murphy's morning after, sharply contrasted with the hectic and neon colours of the main show. What's interesting to see is that at the end of the gig we experience the lights come up, and as white-coloured balloons fill the air, the film begins to fade out in the same manner that it begins, with overbearing white lighting and intense noise. But at this point, we the viewer are informed. It's the end of LCD's last gig, and it's the turning point for Murphy. He's finished. In this sense, we can actually see the lighting change from the bright neon to the overbearing white for the first time without contrast, and it's the first time in the documentary that is uninterrupted. It's this lighting and composition that at first confuses the viewer, but pulls it all together in the end to give a stark introspection into the feelings of Murphy, of his unnaturally calm day and his conflicted feelings. And as we cut back and forth, we finally observe the change when it happens, the moment when LCD Sound System is over. We have seen fragile James contrasted with Showtime James, a jarring perspective on what fame does and how different it is for everybody involved. But the end focuses on the closing part of the gig and cycles back to where it began. It brings us in with tighter angles exposing James Murphy at ironically his most vulnerable. For him, it's ended, and we can see it happen in real time. It's heartbreaking but also hopeful, and sends a powerful message of choice and consequence.